Good, good morning, students. Welcome to the contact session in preparation for your assignment. My name is Generosa Simon, and I'm your tutor for learner support in natural science and health. So we are doing the 2018 assignment-based contact class, we will start with the outline of our presentation. So with this presentation, we are going to look at why support in natural science and health. We are going to look at the important notes to remember, or I'm going to dwell more on the tips on answering the assignment questions. And then I'm also going to look at now, after that, I look at the content of the assignment, but in a way, I'm not going to talk about question by question, because if I do that, if I address a specific question and another question, that means I'm going to give you the answers. So I don't want to give you the answers, therefore, rather I'll talk about the important aspect or the key words that are important that will assist you when you look at the assignment question. So I will discuss, I will tackle the keywords that will assist you, so that when you are going to look at the assignment, at least you understand what is the main thing within that question that you should look at. So that's why instead of reading out the question, I'm just going to look at the first one. I'm going to look at the teacher's passion for teaching. So, you know, when the question is asked, it's not specifically on teacher's passion for teaching, but rather how you will, a passionate teacher will be able to deliver a lesson, or be able to deliver teaching and learning. But I'm just going to dwell on the passion for teaching, and then I talk about it. I talk about the importance of assessment instead of talking about the 3 types of assessment that they are asking in the question in the assignment. So I'd rather just talk about why assessment is important in the classroom, and then I will look at the learner-centered involvement in the class. But I will not really talk about the question itself, but rather just what is the importance. Why would we need learner-centered in the classroom? And then I'll look at the positive presentation for a conducive learning atmosphere in natural science class. So we just want to look at what are the positive presentations that a teacher can look at when they are doing the teaching and learning in natural science class, but also in general, because this is not just to help you with the assessment, but it can also help with the assignment, but it will also help you when you are going to study for your exams. So it can't be really just specific. Then we look at the importance of technology to the current teaching and learning process, as well as its uses in teaching and learning. And after that, we just look at the contact details, just in case you want to contact me after, or you have a question when you are doing your assignment. So let's start with the first one. Why support in natural science and health education? So we look at why would we need to support our learners? So of course we want to develop their understanding. We want them to acquire necessary skills and the attitude that will require them to contribute to the development of our society. We want them to one day to be an independent citizen that will contribute toward the development of our country. So we also want to assist our teachers. We want them to at least learn through this subject to supplement what they already know, what they have learned previously, and through their experience. We want them to be able to know how to treat the learners equally, and also how they can be able to develop the materials that can support the learners, that can also support gender equality within their classes. And also when it comes to the teaching approaches, We want them to be able to use the methods that are learner friendly, that can allow the learners to be able to learn from each other. That's why we talk about also eventually assistance from peers, means that learners can also eventually be able to assist each other with those methods and materials that teachers are using. So we call this collaborative learnings. Instead of just being taught, they can be able to, or they will develop the ability to be able to also assist each other. So the tips on answering assignment questions. When you answer the assignment questions, sometimes you just tend to miss marks, or you not really judge the question, so it will end up you end up losing marks. So for you to avoid losing marks, let's look at the important things you can look at. First of all, when you have your assignments, you need to look at the instructions given within that assignment. What is it saying? Read the instruction before you answer the question, so that you know what is it they're asking in that question. And then you look at the allocated marks within that assignment. So you have to be guided by the marks, because if it's just 2 marks, you know it's just 1 or 2 lines. If it's now 20 marks, you know that you have to go further than that. So be guided by the marks that are allocated in the assignment. Look at the sources. So you make sure you use other sources. Most of the time, we see that students tend to use the modules only, but we would want you to also look at other sources. Books, internet, look at the journals, and be guided by other sources, not just to take your module and then you take everything from there. That's why we come down to references. You can't just reference your module, but rather go and look for other sources of information. Go to the libraries, to your online library, get the information that you can get on that specific question or on all the questions, and then so at the end of the day, then you acknowledge your sources, so then you have references and all that. Plagiarism, so that one is a very important aspect. So make sure that when you, even in your module, don't just copy and paste. Rather, put it in your own words, summarize it a little bit, and then you acknowledge the source. So that will take us back to the references. And then at the end of your assignment, you have references. And then within the body of the assignment, you have you've acknowledged the sources where you get the information from. So it's very important. The aspect of plagiarism is very important. Please make sure that you familiarize yourself. Go in your module, Romans 6. It will guide you. It will tell you what it's all about, and then why we do not need it, and what will happen if you happen to just copy and paste. Look at the verbs that are used in the assignment. If they say list or discuss, describe, name, you need to also familiarize yourself with this. Look at your module again. Romans 6-4 in your module, it will guide you of what they mean when they say list. It will guide you what they mean when they say discuss. It's very clear there. Please go back to your module and look at Romans 4-6. The total marks for this assignment is 100. And you are required to get at least 50% and above. It's just, this is the assessment that will help you qualify for your exam. So if you get less than 50, you will not qualify for exam. So put in more effort so that you can be able to write the exam after the assignment is marked. Okay, let's start with the content. Teachers passionate for teaching. So you know they are passionate teachers that are teaching not just to wait for the salary or just because they needed a job. No, they are teaching because they feel it's their place, they feel it's their career, and they really want to give this on to the learners. They are doing it passionately. So those teachers usually have 3 qualities. they usually have background knowledge, because then you need the knowledge in the subject you are giving, because if you do not know the subject you are giving, then it's a problem. So you need to have the background knowledge of your subject. You need to know, so that even if a learner comes with a question, you can be able to answer it. So these days, learners can be able to get questions everywhere, even when they are walking to school, even when they are reading books. So it cannot just be from the textbook. So you should be, if you, with your background knowledge, you should be able to answer those questions. And then they are professionals. They act professionals. They treat all the learners equal. They do not think of who is from where, who is who. They would rather be professional people that are acting professional, and then they would rather focus on why they are there instead of who is who, or just to be there, and then they're just saying, so what, I will just cover this part, is that I'm supposed to do. But they rather act professionally. And then they have good personal qualities. So we talk about good personal qualities. So we'll look at some of them shortly. But before that, a good teacher will usually have a certain belief. And that belief, most of them will believe that if I give my learners a fish, they will just eat it for a day. If I give them a fish, they will eat it. But if I teach them how to fish, they will eat that fish for life, because now they know how to get that fish. They can't just get a fish that is already there. They have to go and get that fish themselves, and then for them to be able to eat it. So meaning that if you are preparing your children or your learner just for the sake of passing the exam, then we have a problem. So you need to prepare them for life. You need to prepare them so that even when they go to university, you see sometimes they ask these basic questions. They shouldn't just refer to what the lecturer taught them. They can be able to recall what they learned once upon a time at school. So that's what we call, you are teaching them for life. So we look at the qualities. Some of the qualities for a passionate teacher or a good teacher, they are usually patient and kind, flexible and resourceful, tolerant and open-minded with a good sense of humor, enthusiastic and enjoying teaching, self-disciplined, efficient, imaginative and creative, honest, helpful, humble and modest. You know, you look at this and you can imagine that teacher is a teacher that will act not just as a guardian for the learners in the absence of their parents, but also a teacher that has the best interest of the learner at heart. The teacher that would not just say, these are not my kids. My kid is my kids are maybe at a private school, or my kids are not at this school, even if it's they are at the state school. They are not here, so I'm just going to teach what I'm supposed to teach, and that's it. But they would rather go out of their way and teach those children, thinking that even if they are not directly going to assist me one day, they will do it indirectly, because when we are going to have new technologies, cars with other developments, and it's not just other kids, it might be my own kids one day. So I will make sure that I prepare them for the world out there. So that is a passionate teacher. So with the assignment question, which is even question 1, you'll be looking at the 3 features that will be provided to you, and then so you need to discuss them. So when you discuss, you argue, and then you arrive at a conclusion. So I can't dwell on those 3 features. That's why I just talked about the aspect of a passionate teacher. The next one, the importance of classroom assessment. Why do we need assessment anyway? Why do we need assessment, for example, in the natural science class? We want to make sure that it's part of, but why would we really want to make assessment part of? So we want to look at why formal or why informal assessment, for example. So in this case, we need assessment because it gives us a complete picture. It will help us assess the progress of our learners. It will help us to look at the achievements that in the progress they are making in the class. or at the end of the test, at the end of the exams. It helps us look at not just to look at the progress, also to look at the feedback. So what are the learners' weak points? What are the learners' strong points? Where do they need assistance with? Where do they excel well within that assessment, within that questions, or within that test, within that exam, within that class continuous assessment through questions, group work, and all that. So you look at also what is it that they need assistance with, further assistance with. And then you have the question. In this case, you are supposed to critically analyze the 3 types of classroom assessments that teachers can use in the natural science and health. So the best way also, when you look at these questions, these are questions that you usually apply. These are issues that you usually apply when you are teaching. It's a daily it's daily activities that you do in your class. Why, when you answer the question, why won't you also apply it so it's easy for you, so that the tutor can also know that you understand what you are talking about? It also assists you, because when you now relate it to what you do daily in your class, it will give you a new perspective, and you can be able to look at it and understand it in general, that even when you study for your exams, you just go through, because you can apply most of it from your classes. Then there is a question on learner-centered involvement in the classroom. Usually the teaching materials and method that you use in your class is very important, because then it will determine the type of learning and teaching that will take place in your class. It's very important you look at your methods that you're going to use in your class that day. You look at the materials that you're going to use. Where are they from? How did you come about making them, or if you buy them, or if the learners themselves make them? That would determine the type of teaching and learning that will take place in your class. Because of course, if learners were involved, you know already what that means. If you just buy them, if you take them from your local environment, you already know what that means to the learner when you're going to deliver your teaching and learning. You keep in mind that also, when learners come in the class, they just don't come to learn everything. They already have some knowledge and social experience that is gained from either within their families or the communities at large, or when they are interacting with their environment. Now, when you bring, for example, the materials that are from the local environment, of course, when learners come, they have seen these materials. So the way the teaching and learning is going to be directed, the way they will learn from that teaching and learning is different from the way they learn when they cannot associate with the materials that they are learning from. So you also have to note that when they are involved, when the lesson is hands-on, when they manipulate objects and apparatus, then that's when we talk about best learning, because they learn while they're involved, they can remember, they can be able to recall these informations, and most of the time when they have to use this apparatus and all that, that's when they learn through interactions, that's when they learn now through discussions, and then it's usually through a group, or a role plays or experiments, and you what have you. So learning is really taking place there, and they can be able to remember when they are writing exams, or when in life, when they are working, they can be able to recall these informations, because it is recalled with other related also experience that comes with it. Like they can remember the discussion in the class, and then the joke that was told by the other learner when they were there, and then they can remember all those small details. They can be able to relate, and they can be able to also now put it on paper or put it in practice in the future. So usually the learner-centered method encourage cooperative learning and also collaborative learning, because they learn together, they interact, and then they also learn now the content. So the assignment question, you are required to draw a diagram, and then you are supposed to explain step by step the importance of each factor within that diagram. Most of the time I see students tend to make it an essay, and they don't look at those subtopics. It's better you do it single subtopic and then another one, because the advantage with that is that you tend to focus on each and every, and then you will not neglect any part of that drawing. But if you make it just an essay, most of the time you either focus more on the teaching part or on the learning part, or just talk about the teacher, what the teacher was supposed to do, but you forget about, you can't balance between all the aspects. So it's better you do it, and then you do it step by step. You look at each factor separately. And then you look at the presentation of a conducive learning atmosphere in your class. We want a positive presentation of a conducive learning atmosphere. So usually when for the teaching and learning to take place, you need to look at what is the method that you can use. But most of the time people tend to use learner-centered approach or learner-centered education, because this is the optimum quality of learning. That is where the optimum quality of learning will come from. This is where learners do not learn individually, but rather they learn from each other, because they each know different things, but when they come together now, they learn from each other. So we also have to look at the architecture and the furniture of the classroom. How is your furniture arranged? Is it single or in pairs or in a group? So because in a way that can already convey the message of the type of learning that will take place in your class. Look at the light, the temperature also. So if it's dark in your class, what does that mean? If there is optimum light, if there is enough light in the class, is that good or not good for the learners? And then what will noise do? If there is extensive noise and you want to teach your learners, will that be of any good? If you can't manage your class and the learners are just making noise when you are supposed to be teaching, is that effective learning that is going to take place? So you have to know how to manage your class. So you also look at the quality of the classroom. You look at the aesthetic quality of your classroom. So by that you need to look at which one is the inviting atmosphere. So when the learners come in my class, isn't just a wall, clear wall, nothing, or it's maybe very old, or maybe there's posters, maybe there are colorful things that can relate to the lessons, or what is it there that is inviting, that when the learners come in, they feel comfortable and they want to learn, and they can relate to some of those posters when they are learning. So is my class clean and all that? You need to look at that. So the assignment question will ask you to analyze the positive presentations and give. So you need to give your real life practical examples, like I said previously. By all means, try to relate so that it can help you also understand the whole concept. Let's look at the importance of technology to the current teaching and learning process. This is a generic question. So we want to look at, currently we have technologies. Previously we looked at the textbook and then we just teach from the textbook. But nowadays we have technology. Things have changed. So what is the importance of technology now to nowadays teaching and learning? So you look at things like, sometimes it serves as a teaching aid, because if you look at the picture, you can introduce a concept and then the learners can follow there, or you can give a homework or something, and then it's also a teaching aid, because then they don't have to like they are following. So you look at it gives new information, because if you look at the internet, for example, it has new information that is coming in, being updated and all that, is so that will supplement your textbook. And it's also a source of knowledge, because the subject content is more broad, and other sources will say this, other sources will say this. With that, you get more knowledge of that specific subject. And then you look at it makes things easier and faster. So by now, if each learner have a laptop, for example, like in the picture, instead of you writing on a board, and then each learner is supposed to copy first, and then they're supposed to finish copying, that's when you start explaining. Then there's a problem there, because you by the time you finish writing the summary, there's no time to explain to the learners. It needs another lesson again. But if you prepare at home your lesson, and then maybe you have it in the USBs and you copy it in the laptops, you give them laptops and then they follow. You don't have to write on a board anymore. So it makes the work or learning easier and faster, and then it provides interest to the teachers and learners. They would want to find out what is out there, and then new things are coming up, and then you will be more interested to know what is out there, not just from our natural science and health textbook, but elsewhere also, by means of technology. So the question will be, where you explain the importance of technology to the current teaching and learning. So just it's a generic question. It doesn't have to apply specifically to the natural science and health. And then what is the use? So now we talk about why is it important. So what is the use of technology in the teaching and learning? What do you use technology in terms of teaching and learning? So you look at, sometimes teachers can create games, and then the learners will play those games, either game boards or cards, but there is a concept within that is attached to the lesson that the learners are supposed to learn in that lesson. And then it can also be used emails, when you exchange emails or online collaboration with the other people away from, be it teachers, or maybe if technology allows it, learners also can collaborate with others online, or online tutorials, access to website and all that. And then you have for example, sometimes you want to go for a field trip, but you don't have money for petrol, or you don't have a bus, or there is no time to do that. So technology can also help you in that, because then you look at the electronic textbooks, you look at the labs, you look at, for example, you look at the internet, you get, if it's animals, then you get the pictures of the animals, and then the lesson can still be carried on without actually going to the field itself. The question will be, how will you plan to successfully incorporate technology in the teaching and learning of natural science and health? So how will you incorporate now, you as a teacher, how will you do it in your class, natural science and health? Looks like we come to the end of our presentation, but before we conclude, there is very important quotes that we can look at. So as a teacher, we believe that we cannot teach anybody anything, but we can only make them think. Let's make our kids think. Let's make them be in charge of their own learning, not us anymore. So let them take care of their own learning, let them learn from each other, let them think. Even the questions we give them, let us make sure that they're formulated in the way that it's not name, rather apply. Then they will know, they will think first before they put that word on the paper. And then, usually they say, tell me and I forget. I'm sure we are familiar with this. Teach me and I remember. But if you involve me, I will learn. So that's why we emphasize on practical experiments, we emphasize on hands-on activities, so that when you involve them, they are learning. not just to remember and then we will tell them and then they forget. So let us, we are teachers. We are educators. We should teach like a pineapple. You know how a pineapple is. So we stand tall, we wear our crown, and we are sweet inside. With that, I leave you with my email, jenninanjala@gmail.com, my cell phone number 08162836653. So hopefully I will get a call. I don't mind the text message. I can get a text message. I can get an email. I will be able to come back to you. So with that, good luck for your assignment. Hopefully you will complete it and you will qualify for the exam. That's what I want most. That's what I want 100%. So I'm looking forward to seeing your assignment so I can mark it and give it 100%. Thank you very much.